Live it up, live it up, live it up, live it up.
Yo, 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 what's good, everybody? Hope everybody is doing well. Welcome to the John Coxon podcast, where I discuss actionable relationship counsel. This is episode number 2, and hopefully you went back and watched my first episode that basically told you who I am, what I do, and why I'm even doing this podcast and what my passion is. So I want to encourage you to go and watch that because I'm not going to waste any time talking about that except to tell you that relationships definitely are my passion, and I have a lot of experience in it. I have a lot of passions, but this one is pretty high up on the list. But tonight, in this episode, we're going to step out of the boat a little bit and really get started on this journey of relationships. So hopefully you'll subscribe, you'll share this. Now, what we're about to get into tonight, as you can see from the title, is something that some of you may say, well, that's not for me. I'm already married, or I'm at this stage of relationship, or I'm beyond that, or I'm before that, whatever the situation is. I can guarantee you tonight, this episode is a foundational piece to every other stage of your relationships. And if you get something from this, I promise you it's going to make connections in every other aspect of your relationships. So tune in. Please like and subscribe and share this with someone. I'm guaranteeing you this is going to be good for you tonight. All right. So I want to tell you that there's a reason I decided to make this actionable relationship counsel. And the reason I decided to do that was because I would rather say counsel rather than advice. Counsel rather than advice, right? Advice is like, yo, you should do this, you should do that. I'd rather just give you advice, which are sort of guiding parameters for you. Relationships, from my time in counseling and being a pastor and just being in relationships myself, are just far too complicated and nuanced for me to give you just one prime directive. But I can give you guidance. And in that area, you can figure out what to do with the rest. All right. So without further ado, I want to talk about something tonight that is sort of a half step before dating, right? We also to think of when we think about relationships, generally we think of marriage as the summit, right? The top spot that we want to get to eventually in our life. As I said in my video the other day, either a capstone or a cornerstone, something that we need to ascend to or need to achieve. And when we get there, we feel like we've made it to the pinnacle of relationships. And although I would love to start there, we got to start at the base. And so, what I'm going to talk about is something that is right before a half step before actually the dating stage. And tonight, I want to talk to you about maximizing your singleness. And I'm going to say this tonight and give you some practical wisdom. So please stay tuned because I promise you this is going to be good for you wherever you are in life. I want to give dating principles away. And so for the next couple of episodes, I'll be talking about dating principles, but this is the very first one that you need to hear tonight. And that's maximize your singleness. So watch this, y'all. If you're single and you endeavor to be married at any point in your life, I want you to know if you're single right now, you have been given the gift of time and space in a quantity and quality that you will likely not have once you are married. Let me say that again. All right. If you're single right now, you've been given a gift. God has afforded you the gift of time and space in a quantity and in a quality that you will likely not have once you are married. Once you cross the threshold of marriage, life really gets a lot more complicated. Not necessarily worse, but it definitely gets complicated. It gets more nuanced. It's more than just black and white because now it's not only you having to navigate your own schedule, but being able to navigate the schedule of someone else. Being married means that you are now accountable and responsible to someone else. And if that's not something that you want to do, then definitely marriage is not actually for you, right? But in this time and space that you have to essentially get yourself together, this is a golden time where you should be investing in yourself. One of the best gifts that you can give your potential partner in your life is the best version of you, not a perfect version, right? Not the version that is, completely wiped clean of all insecurities and all kind of issues and stuff like that. We're going to have issues until the end of time. We're never going to be perfect on this side of glory. But what you should be working towards is being the best version of yourself for someone else. Invest in yourself now. And I do want to tell you, in many ways, marriage is an investment. It's an investment. All right. So, yes, we marry because we are attracted to someone. We marry because, we like them or we may like their family or we've had good experience together. But a lot of people say, and I actually agree with this, a lot of your success is actually predicated on who you decide to marry or who you commit to for the rest of your life. Marriage is an investment. And why would someone invest in you? Watch this, y'all. Why would someone invest in you if you haven't invested in yourself? Okay, this is just the why. I'll get to the how and get practical in just a second. But marriage is an investment. Ask yourself the question: why would someone invest in me if I have not invested in myself? And so at the end of the day, marriage is more than just attraction. It's a partnership as well, right? Let's be honest. In many ways, we're sort of running the numbers when we look at a person that we're about to marry. And I hate to use that sort of language, but it's true, right? We're looking at the ROI, which is the return on investment, right? And so you should not only be looking for someone to be a good investment for you, the question is, are you a good investment for them? So that's the why of maximizing your singleness. But this podcast is predicated on being practical. And so I'm going to tell you exactly how to do that. All right. So here's number one tonight. There's a lot, but I got to say this tonight. Here's number one. Y'all ready? Okay. Um, be selective. Be selective. Be selective. Not in the person that you choose, right? Not in the person that you want to be with. That's not what I'm talking about. We'll get to that later. I'm talking about be very selective in what and who you listen to about relationships. I'm talking tonight about how to invest in yourself to make yourself the best possible partner for someone else in your life. All right, what do I mean by that? Try not to consume too much fruitless gender war conversation. Let me say that again. Try not to consume too much fruitless gender war conversation. We have a lot of that going around. Now, mind you, there's a whole bunch of really good podcasts and channels that talk about relationships. As I said in my first episode, I will reference many of them as we go along. But there's also a lot of not so good stuff, a lot of stuff that is simply going to cause you to project, someone else's pain and someone else's trauma onto your potential partner. There's a lot of stuff out there that's going to make you suspicious of the opposite sex. And what you have to do is that the stuff that you watch that is regarding relationships, you have to ask yourself, why do you watch it? Why do you watch it? Does it actually make you better? Does it help you treat your significant other better? Does it help you to grow or become a better person? And if it doesn't, then you probably shouldn't be engaging in it as much as you are. If you are actually serious about being married one day or actually being in a committed relationship, hear me, you cannot afford to waste your golden time on relationship entertainment that you may not have learned to separate from reality. Okay, what am I talking about? Now, I'm actually one of the few guys on the planet, right, who actually does watch, Love is Blind from time to time. I do watch Married at First Sight. I actually met Cal Roberson on many occasions. And I watch Pop the Balloon and stuff like that. Now, it's not really just because I like to be entertained by it, but mainly because I'm a student of human interaction and relationships. I told you relationship is a huge passion of mine, and I learn a lot from it. And yes, from time to time, it is actually entertaining. But in my maturity, I have learned to separate what is on that screen from actual reality. I think that there are many people who are in dating relationships right now who are looking at what is happening on the screen in Pop the Balloon and Love is Blind and all of these reality relationship shows, and they have not learned to separate that from actual reality. They actually think that this is how most relationships go. And they actually think that this is how every single person in the opposite sex is. So let me tell you this, let go of three words right now, especially if you are single right now. I want you to be selective in what you watch, but I need you to let go of three words, and there's probably many more. These words trend toward the extreme. Let go of always, never, and every. Always, never, and every. Every man is not a cheater. Okay. Women are not always one way or the other. Okay. We have to let go of these words. And by watching these shows, it continually influences our mind to think that this is exactly how the opposite sex is without engaging with the opposite sex to find out for ourselves. We project other people's trauma, other people's pain, other people's bad experiences onto our future relationships. And one of the ways that we should be maximizing our singleness is simply to be selective in the stuff that we watch right now. Secondly, all right, this is all in the how. Stay with me, y'all. This is all in the how. Accept risk. Mm. Accept risk. What are you talking about? Here's what I'm talking about. I want you to accept risk in relationships and the fact that you may be rejected and get your feelings hurt. But that's something that I actually want you to accept now on the single side of things, right? Not waiting until you get into a relationship. Relationships are risk. It is a risk to put your heart out there. It sucks sometimes, right? To put your heart out there only for it to be trampled on. But that's what relationships are. And if you're not willing to risk anything, then you'll never gain anything. That's a part of life, right? And sometimes when we go into relationships and we get our feelings hurt, or someone tramples on it, or someone does us dirty, then we begin to paint with a really broad brush and say that every man is this, or every woman is this, or don't get into relationships, and even to tell other people not to do it. But I want you to recognize that relationships are risks. It may not work out. You may get your feelings hurt. You may get dumped. Someone may say harsh, critical, and very uncomfortable things to you, but you need to accept that now on the front end and recognize that every girl that you ask for her number may shoot you down because she's not attracted to you. There may be men who don't want to be with you for one reason or another, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you are a bad person, but it means that you should accept risk, that there is a possibility that this relationship will not work out, or it may not even get off the runway. Okay. Next, I want to tell you this. Discover who you are. Discover who you are. Okay. This is an important part of being a person. And again, this is a half step before you actually start dating. You need to figure out who you are as a person. Okay. Here's what I mean. Life is hard enough without you always having to shape shift because you feel like you have to fit in or to even be a chameleon, right? Because many people don't know who they are, they simply people please and they become whatever someone wants them to be. That's essentially what people pleasing is. It's figuring out what other people want and becoming that thing. That's no way to lead your life, and that's no way to enter into a relationship. You don't want to have to feel like you got to lie to kick it. Okay. You don't want to feel like you got to put on a mask to fit in with other people. You should take time during the years that you have that you are single in order to figure out who you are as a person. Figuring out who you are as a person also means that you will gain confidence and self esteem in who you are. Okay. And confidence is key because your lack of confidence in yourself could keep you out of the market and could cause you to choose poorly. Right? Because you think you're not a good person or you wouldn't be a good match for anybody or you don't think that you're attractive at all. It can keep you from approaching somebody or even when somebody approaches you, you sort of intentionally or unintentionally sabotaging the relationship simply because you don't have confidence in who you are or what you think that you should be. All right. And without this kind of confidence, you will lack the ability to either pursue or to accept a good option for you in your life. Take time and discover who you are. Figure out who you are as a person, man. Figure out what books you like. Figure out, what hobbies you enjoy, what foods you like. Make sure that you know who you are so that you're not trying to figure that out once you get into a relationship. Now, here's a big one tonight, and this is probably the part where somebody's going to get mad at me, but it's the truth anyhow. And I just want to be honest because I'm passionate about this and I see this type of thing all the time, and I want to help you. I want you guys to, if you're single, all right, and you are considering marriage or getting into a relationship, I want you to stop trying to change and readjust everybody else. And I want you to change you. Mm. I want you to focus on changing you. There is this sort of collective thought in our society today that we have to find the one, that term which I actually really don't agree with so much. We have to find the one. But there is barely any talk about being the one, right? We can't wait to get into a relationship because we're going to mold our man into what we want him to be. We're going to mold our woman into what we think that they should be, right? We constantly have these thoughts in our minds and in our hearts, but I want you to stop trying to change other people. And I think you should focus more on trying to change yourself. And particularly for my spiritual people and people that are part of the kingdom community, of which whom I love and whom I actually am a part of, spiritual people. All right. It's so funny sometimes how like God is doing all of this revealing. He's revealing all these things about other people in your life, about this person that you're dating, about this person that you could potentially be in a relationship with, but he hasn't revealed anything about you. Okay. Somebody's mad at me. All right. But seriously, for us who believe in God and God reveals things to us, I would argue that more than revealing so many things about other people, God reveals things about us. You have to ask yourself, what things in your life do you need to change? And what things do you need to alter or readjust in order to be a better person and to be a person that will fit somebody for every season of life? Next, learn to listen. Okay, this is all a how. I'm being practical. Learn to listen. Learn to listen. It's absolutely fundamentally necessary to communication for you to learn how to listen. I can't tell you how many couples I counsel, and they come into the counseling office and they're having issues in their marriage and in their relationships. And ultimately, it boils down to communication. But then it boils down even further to the root, which is they're not really listening to each other, right? It's almost like they're speaking a different language. They're not listening to one another. They're not trying to hear each other's out or their emotions, anything like that. Listening is fundamental and it is key, right? And before you get into a relationship, you can strongly damage it by just not having the tool or the skill of listening. Now, I'm going to say something tonight as well that, may be a little controversial, but it's true. And this is simply my experience. It's anecdotal, so you don't have to take it as the gospel. But what I do find is that we have issues on both sides of the gender pool when it comes to communication. Okay. And here it is. Um, One, on the male side, we have an issue with listening, and I can testify to this because when my wife wants to tell me something, I immediately want to fix it, right? But that's not what she wants. She wants me to be able to listen. She just wants to get her thoughts off of her chest and get her feelings out and talk about what's going on in her life. She just wants her husband to listen. But men, because we are wired by God and by nature, we simply want to fix things, right? We kind of skip over the listening part. What I have noticed on the female side is that a lot of men feel disrespected because he says while he's trying to talk to his wife will overtalk him. So he can't get his words out, right? And they'll often say, it's the same wife that wants me to express my feelings, but when I express my feelings, she's not listening. She's overtalking me while I'm trying to get it out. So listening is a skill that you should learn even while you're single and before you get into relationships because it's fundamental to communication. And by the way, relationships don't include communication. They are communication. If you don't have communication, you don't have a relationship. All right? Next up, learn accountability. Learn accountability. We're talking about maximizing your singleness. I got to talk about this before I can give any other dating principles. This is ground zero, number one. You have a whole bunch of time in your life when you're single that God has given you time and space again in a quantity and quality that you will not have when you're married. This is the time where you should be forming who you are as a person so that once you get with your significant other, you can have a strong and steady relationship. Learn accountability. What am I talking about? Learn to say, I'm sorry. You'd be surprised how many people I have to counsel and help them utter these words. Learn to admit that you're wrong. You are not perfect. You do not know everything. You are not God, right? You don't do everything correct. You make mistakes. Learn to say my bad at least. Learn to admit, you know what? I can do better. I was wrong here. Learn accountability, right? Many times relationships begin to devolve because nobody is willing to apologize. Nobody's willing to take accountability for the issue that they certainly cause, which is obvious, or even for the things that they didn't know, but it was brought to their awareness. They're still not willing to take accountability. This is a serious, serious issue. And I think on the front side of things, while you're single, learn that. Learn how to take accountability. Practice saying, I'm sorry when you recognize you're wrong instead of running into your tower of rightness, right? And defending it for the rest of your life. Figure out where you're wrong and learn to admit that. All right. Also, understand what love is. These are all the things you should be doing while you're single. Understand what love is. Some of you may not know what love is because it hasn't been modeled to you. We cannot take that for granted. Many people actually believe that love is little more than a feeling, which is why there are so many divorces in our society today, because people feel like when they don't feel the spark or when the feeling is gone, that their relationship is now over, which obviously I don't agree with, and I'll talk about in some subsequent episodes. But I want you to understand what love actually is. And if it hasn't been modeled for you, couple yourself up with couples, individuals, mentors, podcast channels, whatever that can teach you about what love is. One of the best descriptions of love and what I think is the ideal, but you don't have to think this is just what I think, is actually the Bible. I think that there are tremendous and beautiful stories of love, not only the love that God has for us, but the love even between other human beings in the Bible. It is profound. There are some of the stories there that kind of teach you what love is all about. But I would simply say, and I think this would suffice, that love is a commitment. It's a commitment, and it's a principle in and of itself. I was actually reading this book. I'm still reading it now. It's called The State of Affairs, dealing with infidelity by Esther Perel. I'm not sure if she said it herself or this is somebody that she's quoting, but it was extremely powerful what she said. She said that in our society today, we are no longer ending marriages because we are unhappy, but because we could be happier. Whew. Let me say that again, because I want that to rest on your mind. She says, we are no longer ending marriages because we are unhappy. We're ending them simply because we just could be happier. And to me, that spells out the fact that people don't understand what love is all about and how inherent commitment actually is in love. And before you get into any kind of serious relationship, before you start to use the L word, then you should understand what the word means and what that means for you in the context of any relationship that you choose. Okay. This is all while you're single. I know this sounds kind of corny, but it's true. I'm gonna need you to find some hobbies. Okay. Why do you say that, John? Why are you saying that we should find some hobbies? Okay, here's why. You need to find some things that make you happy so that you won't make other people unhappy. Okay. People are entering into relationships today, and because they are unhappy, they expect that when they start dating or when they get into a marital relationship, the expectation is that their partner is going to bear the responsibility of making them happy. That's unfair. That's unfair. It is not necessarily the responsibility of your partner or your spouse to make you happy all the time. If you are a mature adult, then there are ways that you can be happy on your own, right? If the other person is not around, that's a heavy weight to bear to make you happy all the time. So find some hobbies, find some things that you like to do. I know for me, there was 1 year of my life that I'll talk about later in another episode when I spent single, and I spent a lot of time just sort of, I don't know, accumulating hobbies like Thanos accumulating the Infinity Stones, man. Like for real, like I just became a serial hobbyist. Taught myself to play the guitar. Myself how to cut hair and cut my own hair and do all kind of stuff. Like I just learned so much stuff. And although I love being with my wife, it is not my wife's responsibility to make me happy. Neither have I put that burden on her. Right? Because we're not enmeshed. That's a psychology term. We're not all on top of each other all the time. And so when she's not there, I'm not calling her every hour. I can do certain things on my own and vice versa. You need some hobbies. Figure out some things that you like and what you don't like and get into it so that you're not putting the pressure on your significant other to make you happy in this life. Okay. Next, maximizing your singleness. Therapy. Y'all know I was going to talk about it. Come on. Come on now. I'm not going to be a therapist and not talk about this. Come on, come on, come on, come on. All right. You know that. You got to get therapy if you feel that you need it. And sometimes, even if you don't feel like you need it, you should still go into the therapy room at least once. Okay. Now, I understand that many of you may be believers and you may be Christians, and I understand the stigma within the Christian community. But I'll just say this and leave this alone. We don't do this with any other area of our lives. We don't ask any questions about the doctor or the dentist or anything else. And so if you need therapy in order to help yourself be better, I want you to remove this stigma from your mind and pursue it for yourself. And before you get into a serious relationship with someone, you should go to therapy. Why? Because you should process your fears, your traumas, and your regrets. And what often happens is that we hold on to some of these things for so long. And it's not our fault, it's not intentional, but we hold on to some of these things for so long. And then these things start to spill out at the most inconvenient moments in our relationships, right? Our wife or our husband does something at an inconvenient moment, and at that moment we just blow up like far more serious than it actually should have been, because we're dealing with triggers and traumas that we never talked about. It's essentially an open wound that has never been healed. All right. In therapy, also, the reason you should go to therapy is to practice acknowledging and expressing your emotions. Every single client that I have, I give them a feelings wheel. Do you know why? Because we as human beings are actually not very good at expressing our emotions and our feelings. Many of us don't even know what our feelings are. We don't have the vocabulary or the language to be able to even express, especially men, what is going on inside of us. I've seen men break down just giving them the feelings wheel and helping them to point out how they've been feeling for years, but they could never really put their finger on it. Also, therapy is good for this, particularly if you get a good counselor, right? That will challenge you. It'll help you stop lying to yourself. It'll help you stop lying to yourself about who you are and who you think you are, right? It'll help you take a good look in the mirror and understand that you are a person with frailties, with faults, with insecurities, and that's okay as long as you're willing to work through them and not punish other people in your relationships just because you have them. Also, therapy is good for working through your addictions. I don't know what those addictions are, but there's a whole bunch that I could name to you right now. But whatever those addictions are, right? You can work through them, right? Because again, this is one of those things that can spill out at the most inconvenient moment and cause harm to your wife, your husband, to your children, even to your community, or embarrassment. You can begin to work on those things now while you're single so that you're not trying to have to navigate around your schedule and your husband's schedule or wife's schedule and your kid's schedule to try to find a good time to go to therapy. While you're single, this is the perfect time. You have time and space to be able to figure out who you are and work on some of the things in your life. Okay. Also, when you're single, cultivate good friends. Okay. I know that sounds simplistic, but let me clarify and expand on this. I want you to cultivate not only good friends, but good friends and friends that you are willing to give the permission to tell you the truth. Mm. That's one of the things that we miss. For many of us, man, we just kind of throw around this term of friend, right? The Bible says, not everybody's a friend, right? But a friend is born for adversity, born for hard times and tough times. Not only there to hold our hands through tough times, but to tell us the actual truth, right? And so many times it really wasn't the other person in the relationship. Maybe it was you. Maybe it was, some of those traumas and triggers spilling out. Maybe it was your lack of accountability or responsibility or your inability to apologize or stay committed in the relationship. You need friends around you who are actually going to tell you the truth. They are not yes men or yes women, and they're not going to take your side every single time because they are afraid of you. If you have real friends want you to grow. Real friends want you to be to not yes be happy, but to also have a stable relationship and to show you areas in your character where you may actually be off base. Now, this next one that I'm gonna say, y'all might get mad at me for saying, but again, I'm not here to make so much friends, even though I would love to be your friend. But I'm here today to tell you the truth and help you in your relationships. And as we're talking about this half step before getting into the dating market, this one is extremely important. Be intentional about your physical appearance. Okay? No one said that you have to be perfect because nobody is. Nobody is truly a perfect 10. We understand that. But physical appearance is important. And for many of you who are following my Instagram and TikTok and Facebook, you'll see that I kind of started this relationship trend with actually talking about attraction, right? And I don't think that physical appearance is the most important, but it is first. It's the first thing that people see, right? And you may be saying right now, well, I have value beyond my physical appearance. And yes, that is true. You absolutely do have value, but it's very possible that someone may never see that value, right? Because of the lack of intentionality when it comes to your physical appearance. And this is for men and women. So nobody should take offense to this. This is for everybody. This is for every single one of us. If you are single right now and you have the resources and the time, you should be in the gym. Working out, getting your body to the elite and optimal level that you can. Nobody says you got to be a bodybuilder. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to look like an Adonis, but you should be trying to make yourself appealing to the opposite sex if that's actually what you want. And there's no shame in that. What we've sort of done in the church and in the community is we've downplayed physical appearance so much, right, that people put almost no effort or no energy into it. And we can't change, I can't rewire the human mind. The human mind is what it is. Our eyes want what it wants. Men are attracted to physical appearance, and so are women. And yes, there are varying degrees of attraction or what they like or what they don't like. But at the end of the day, putting some intentionality in your physical appearance should not make you upset that someone says that to you. It should make you say, you know what? I'm single. I got the time. I got the energy right now. I should be in the gym. I should be working out. I should be eating healthy, maybe throwing a salad in there every once in a while to get myself to the optimal level so that I can find somebody that I want to be with. Again, I know you're saying I have value. They should just like me for me. Well, let's be honest about this today, okay? God is literally the only person who will love you like just for you at all times. We try as human beings to have that agape love, but God is the only one who really is able to accomplish that. And yes, love extends beyond physical appearance, but that first step for most men and most women is simply being attracted to them. All right. So I encourage you, while you're single, do whatever you can to be intentional about your physical appearance, to try to get yourself to the optimal level so that you can attract the type of person that you want to be with. All right. Okay. We almost done, y'all. I got a few more for you that I need to tell you. Broaden your horizons. When you're single, you should broaden your horizons. You should travel. Yeah. You should see the world. You should become a person that is acquainted with different viewpoints and perspectives and different worldviews in society. Okay, that's what you should do. Yeah, travel a little bit. All right, go places. And even if you can't travel or you can't afford to do that, then you should be talking to people and reading, studying, consuming information, becoming a person that someone would like to talk to. I'm going to tell you what I did in the year that I was single. I was literally consuming information. Believe it or not, my goal was I wanted to be a person that could talk to anybody. I wouldn't be able to talk intelligently and expressly about every single thing, but I wanted to know something about everything. And so I literally consumed information and I consumed books to the point that when I met my now wife, and I met her family and her father, even though there were differences between us, I was able to talk about different things and engage with him. And not only in sports and in politics and other things like that, and even engage with my wife and other people in my world. And so while you're single, you actually have the time to do that. You actually have the time to broaden your horizons, to travel, to gain more information and knowledge. And in a sense, this is a way of investing in yourself and making yourself the best possible version for someone that you want to be with. Okay. Here's a big one. What would your exes say about you? What would your exes say about you? If you're single right now, this is a question you should be asking yourself. Yeah, you should, right? And some of you are thinking to yourself, well, that doesn't matter because they were horrible and they were terrible and all this kind of stuff, but it's still information. So you may think it doesn't matter, but it's valuable information to point you to an area you may actually need to work on in your life that your friends or your peers or your family or you may be completely unaware of. Let me give you something here. Michael Jordan, he was actually the greatest player, a basketball player that ever lived. I know there's argument there in my opinion, he's the GOAT for me. LeBron is obviously a very close second. But anyway, Michael Jordan, all right, was cut from his high school varsity basketball team as a sophomore, right? And it wasn't because he lacked skill, but because the team already had a strong roster, right? And needed a different kind of player. That's what his high school coach said. Said, listen, he wasn't, he was a good player. He had good skill. He wasn't the GOAT then, but that's just not what we needed at that time. And so they cut him, and I think they put him on the JV team or whatever it was. So this decision, like for many of us, was like, yo, that's crazy. But this decision, while initially it was sort of disappointing, it ultimately motivated Michael Jordan to work harder and develop his game, leading to his eventual success. It was him being cut, right, by this coach that led him to work harder on his game so that he could never be cut again, right? It was good information for him, right? So here's what I want to tell you. When you ask yourself about your exes, right, and what they have said about you, this is valuable information. And one of the things that I want to share with you as well is that, man, if every single one of your exes is saying the same thing, it might be something that you may want to pay attention to. Just maybe. I'm just spitballing here. It might be something that you want to pay attention to. If your exes say that you don't listen well, and you've had 3 or 4 of them that have said the same thing, it's not for you to say, man, they're this, they're that, they don't know what they're talking about. If everybody's saying it, there's probably some truth to that. So ask yourself some questions and then take that information, like Michael Jordan. Don't get upset about it, but allow that to motivate you in order for you to become a better person for the person that you want to be with. All right. Pay attention to this stuff. It's important. There's really actually no harm, by the way, depending on the type of relationship you have, I'm even asking some of your exes, as long as you're not in a relationship currently, asking them like, yo, what was it? What was it about me? Why didn't we work out or whatever? There's no harm in that. I'm not saying you go back down that path and down that road, but figuring out who you are and some of the mistakes that you made and what other people are seeing when they're in a relationship with you can be very, very profitable to you. All right. So ask yourself that question. What would your exes say about you? Here's the bottom line, y'all. When we talk about maximizing your singleness and maximizing the time that God has given you, the time that you have when you're not in a relationship, the bottom line is you should be investing in yourself. Do not waste an iota of time. You should be motivated to be the best possible person you can possibly be. And I'll end this with some experience, some experiential wisdom and knowledge for you today. Me nor my wife were perfect by the time we met each other. But I will say this, right? After knowing her story, after talking to her, we've been not only friends, but husband and wife for almost 10 years now. We were not perfect. But around the time that we were getting ready to meet each other, of course, we didn't know, but we were getting ready to meet each other. I think, y'all listen to this. I think both of us, and we've discussed this, I think both of us would have been able to stand before God and said, yeah, God, if you were to bring somebody into my life right now, I'm ready to love them well. We both could have said that. We both could have said, God, if you bring somebody into my life right now, I think that person would be blessed to have me. That's the question that you need to ask yourself before you actually start dating and before you start jumping into relationships sort of sporadically. Would someone be blessed to have you in their life, right? Would you be able to love that person well? At the end of the day, when we try to climb this summit towards marriage and towards committed relationships, it starts right here in our single lives. For those of you who are single, when you're not dating anybody. And my encouragement to you in this episode is to maximize your singleness. Take time and work on yourself as much as you possibly can to make you the best partner for somebody else. Hope y'all not mad at me today, but this is episode 2 and we're only going higher from here. For the next couple of episodes, I'm going to be talking about dating principles and giving you more tools to help you in your relationships at practically every stage. Let me take some of these questions just really, really quick, and we'll end this episode. What is investing in yourself? Is it education? So I'm going to say this. I think education can be a part of it. But what I have seen more often than not, and I caught a little flack and I caught some stray bullets on TikTok for talking about this. What I have seen more often than not is that people will stay out of the dating pool in order to get their education. And not just like an associate's degree or bachelor's. I'm talking about they want to get their master's and their PhD. Somebody has dropped into their mind that they should get all of their degrees and finish all of their education before they even think about marriage. I'm not sure that that is the wisest approach. It works for some people. It may work for you. It may be a good approach, and it may work out. But what I have seen more often than not is that people spend all of these years in school, and they get these degrees, and then they look around and they find that they're much older than they thought they would be, and they're still unmarried. Um, I think that it is very possible for people to gain education and to pursue serious relationships and even potentially get married all at the same time. So you're asking, does investing in yourself include education? It can, but there's a reason I specifically didn't talk about it because I feel that people sort of go really, really far with that and maybe go a little overboard. And I just don't want people to, um, this is kind of hard to say, but I don't want people to age out of the options that they want. Okay. I think at any age it's possible to, get married and to find the love of your life and create a good partnership. But I just want people to prioritize that first, because sometimes education can actually get in the way. Although I agree with education, I think it's a really good thing. All right. Is accepting risk like accepting accountability? Because that could be struggle for um yes, yes, yes. Okay. I'm not sure exactly what you're asking. I think I do, but I don't want to assume too much. Is accepting risk like accepting accountability? Yeah, I guess so. But let me just kind of go back to what I was talking about with that. You got to accept risk when you're single. It's just like, listen, when I was dating and I was out there and I was single, I had to go up to a girl and ask for her number. For a man, it can be the most nerve-wracking experience ever, right? Because you have this potential of being shot down. But if you don't do it, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take, right? And so what I'm saying is for both men and women, you have to accept risks that sometimes you can be shot down, that the relationship will not work out, that things won't happen the way that you think it will. And that's okay. But I need you to accept that now in the single stage. Some people think, well, that's in the dating stage. No, that's in the single stage. I want you to recognize now that every relationship is not going to be perfect. That every person is not going to be perfect. Everything is not going to work out, and that's okay. But you need to recognize that now, so that when things don't work out, you don't sort of like bash the opposite sex. No, it's not just the opposite sex. It's just that for whatever reason, the situation didn't work out. Okay. I probably didn't answer your question, but we can talk more in the in the next live. All right. You can love Jesus and go to therapy too. Absolutely. You better believe it. All right. I'm a living example of that. And I do want Christians and believers, I want them to understand and accept, right, that one of the greatest hiding places for mental health disorders is the church. Mm. Let me say that again. One of the greatest hiding places for mental health disorders is the church, right? Because we have this thing we practice called spiritual bypass, where we just cover things up or whatever. And it's not only that we have, people with mental health disorders. Now we have people with, mental health disorders and serious traumas that they have not worked out. And I'm not saying this is their fault or anything like that, but now they're getting into relationships as well without having worked on themselves or working on what they are dealing with. I'm simply advocating that when you're single, you got plenty of time, right? Hopefully, to be able to invest in yourself and invest in making yourself better for your partner. So, what am I saying today? I'm simply saying, yo, I know you're looking for the one, but you do everything in your power to be the one. Be the one. Be as well put together as you can possibly be. Be the best version of yourself that you can possibly be. And I guarantee you, this is going to have far reaching effects for all of your relationships. All right, everybody, I'm done. This is episode number 2, dating principles number 1, maximizing your singleness. Again, this is a half step before actually getting into dating. In the next episode, I'm going to give you even more dating principles, and we're going to talk about a lot of stuff along the way, and I'm going to challenge you along the way. So don't get mad at me. Just adjust yourself and get ready. But as someone who has dealt with relationships for years, I guarantee that the information that I'm giving you is going to help you. So please, like and subscribe to this podcast, share it with someone who needs it, and I will see you in the next episode. Peace.
Live it up, live it up, live it up.